Good afternoon, everyone. In last lecture, we have started with the new point, that is pharmacoepidemiology. So there we have started seen the types of the pharmacoepidemiology study designs. So in that there are two, that is descriptive and the analytical. And in descriptive we have studied various study designs, that is case reports, case series, incidents, ecological. Okay, so next that we are going to study is the analytical study approach, or it is also called as comparative or etiological study approach. So this approach investigates putative associations between occurrence of, so favorable or not, effects and the exposure to one or more drug or drugs. Okay, so what we are why we have this analytical study approach is that it investigates it investigates association between occurrence and the exposure. Okay, so occurrence and exposure. Okay. So occurrence of the favorable or not favorable effects and the exposure to the one or more drugs. Okay, so it allows identifying different determinants and quantifying their role. Okay, so quantification is done over here. So first of all we have to identify the determinants, and then second is quantify their role. Okay, so it is used, or this study approach is used to test the hypothesis. So earlier study approach, that is the descriptive study approach, it is to generate the hypothesis, but this analytical study approach, it tests the hypothesis which is generated. So this study approach, it answers two questions, that is why and how. Okay, so developing a hypothesis. So a hypothesis is an educated guess about an association that is testable in scientific investigation. So hypothesis is nothing but the guess. Okay, or it is an assumption. Okay, so what assumption is that association, we are trying to find out the association between the two things. Okay, in this case, what are the two things? It is exposure and the effect. Okay, effect can be the favorable effect or it can be the unfavorable effect, but we are trying to associate the cause and effect relationship. Okay, so and also this hypothesis, it is testable. Unless and until it is testable, we cannot call it as a hypothesis. Okay, testable means what? We should be able to prove what is the cause and what is the effect. We should be able to link these two terminologies. So descriptive data, that is who, what, where and when. So it provides information to develop the hypothesis. So hypothesis tends to broad initially and are then refined to have a narrower focus. So initially when we develop the hypothesis, it has very broad scope, but when we refine as we go forward, it focus become very narrower in nature. So the types of analytical study designs, there are mainly two, that is cohort and the case control. So cohort study, there are two, that is forward looking and backward looking. So prospective is the forward looking and the retrospective, it is backward looking. And case control, we have actually seen about both of these terminologies, but we will study it in details. What are these study designs? So what in cohort studies, what is a cohort? it is a well defined group of individuals who share a common characteristic or experience. Okay, what is important over here, it is a well defined group of individuals who have common characteristic of or experience. So example, when we say you, the students of the final year, you carry the same characteristic, that you are all in final year and you carry the or you study the same courses. Okay, so that becomes the common characteristic among yourself. So you as a final year will become a cohort. So cohort study, it is also called longitudinal study or a follow-up study. So participants classified according to exposure status and followed up over time to ascertain outcome. So classification is done depending on exposure status. So exposure status, either it will be exposed to a certain drug or a patient who is unexposed to a certain drug. So depending on status, we can classify it as exposed or unexposed. So it can be used to find multiple outcomes from single exposure. Okay, then it is appropriate for rare exposures or defined cohorts, and also it ensures temporality, that is exposure occurs before observed outcomes. Okay, so cohort study design, a common study design which is of cohort study, it is in study population we have exposed study population and the unexposed study population. And exposure is here, it is self selected. So we have to do the follow up of the exposed and the unexposed population. So in exposed population, again there will be two subpopulation, that is the one with disease and the one with which doesn't have disease. Okay, similar in case of unexposed arm, there are population or there are people with disease and there are people with no disease of or no target disease present. Okay. So types of cohort studies, that is prospective and the retrospective. So what is prospective cohort study? Group participants according to the past and current exposure and follow up into the future. So this is important. What is meaning of prospective? It is forward looking. Okay, so here in this study design, the follow up is done into the future to determine if outcome occurs. In case of retrospective cohort design, at the time that study is conducted, potential exposure and outcomes have already occurred in the past. So when we start with the retrospective study, the exposure and the outcomes, they have already occurred. In the prospective studies, the uh, the person or the population is being or it was exposed to the drug or it is being exposed to the drug, and we are following up that particular population in the future. Okay, so this retrospective, everything have happened that we know for how much long the population is being exposed, we know what is the outcome of the exposure. So we have all that data in our hand and we are looking at back the to find out what is the relationship between the exposure and the outcome. But in prospective cohort study, we have only the data of exposure and we are looking forward to outcome of that exposure. Please understand the difference between two. In prospective, we have the data of exposure, and as we are looking forward, we are trying out to find we are trying to find out the relationship between the exposure and the outcome. But in case of retrospective, we have all the data in our hand, that is what is the exposure and what is the outcome. So we are trying to connect the exposure, rate of exposure, to the outcome. That is the aim of the study. Okay. So the study design of the prospective cohort study is this, that is the there are we as we have two groups, that is exposed and the unexposed population. So at this particular point we have to start the study, so that is the present, and we have to move in the future. So in future we observe the outcome, this will become the outcome. So whether the drug whether the population is exposed to the drug, whether that exposed population will have the disease or not, whether if the population is not exposed to the drug, in that case the patients or that population will have the disease or not. So this part is nothing but the outcome of the study. Okay. And this will be the exposure. Okay. Whether in presence or absence of the drug, is the outcome will be the disease or no disease. That is what we are concerned with over here. That is, if we expose the population to the drug, whether there will be disease or there will be no disease. If we don't give the drug to the population, whether there will be disease or no disease. And this will be we have over here two groups, that is this is group number 1 and this is group number 2. And we when we move in forward direction in the future, we will have the outcomes of this, and with the outcomes we should be able to connect the exposure of the patient to the drug with that of the outcome. So in a retrospective we have everything in our hand, that is we have the exposure data, we have the outcomes. Now when we have all of these data in our hand, we start the study, that is this is the present, and we look back in the past with respect to the exposure and the outcome. And when we look back in the past, we able to connect whether there is any correlation between the exposure and the occurrence of disease. Okay. So when to conduct a cohort study, that is first one is when the exposure is rare and the outcome is common. That is example is given of agricultural pesticide use and the cancer events. If you know that cancer is very commonplace, the outcome over here it is a commonplace, that is cancer. Okay. But the whether the agricultural pesticide causes cancer, we don't know. Okay. Because the exposure is rare. If we consider million cases of the cancer patients, then we have to find out of these 1 million patients, that is the outcomes, how many of them are actually exposed to the agricultural pesticides. Okay. So you will find the exposure is rare in this case. Okay. Many of the times the causes of cancer, they are well defined, as in case of lung cancer the cause is the tobacco smoking. We know that tobacco smoking causes cancer. But in this case, the whether agricultural pesticide cause the cancer, we don't know, because the occurrence or the exposure is very rare in this case. And we have to also ascertain one thing, that exposure, whether the exposure is for the brief period or is it is a continuous type of exposure. Okay. Second is to learn about multiple outcomes due to single exposure. So example is health effects of the nuclear power plant accident. Okay. So if uh, like in case of Chernobyl nuclear power plant accident, okay, what health effects? So health effects over here becomes the outcomes. Okay. And the exposure to the radiation, what radiation from the nuclear power plant will become the single exposure. That means the person, once it is exposed to the radiation, he or she won't remain in that particular area after the nuclear power plant has suffered from any accident. He or she will certainly move. Okay. But once that person is exposed to that radiation only for a single time, it may produce a long term health effects. And these health effects won't be only a single health effect, it may be the multiple of effects. So that is the multiple outcomes can be associated with the single exposure. Okay. So advantages of it is that first is there is no bias. So risk can be calculated because the incidence can be calculated. Then effective for studying rare exposures. This is very important. Then it allows the study of the natural history of the disease. That means how disease progresses in due course of time. Then it assists in determining temporal relationship between the etiological factor, that is the exposure, and the disease. So this is disease becomes the outcome. So what is the relationship exist between the exposure and the disease? So disadvantage is that it takes very long time to conduct it, and as it takes very long time to conduct, it becomes expensive. Large number of subjects are needed to study the actual exposure and the uh, outcome data, and there could be changes in the standard methods or the diagnostic criteria. Okay. So case control study, the second one, the purpose of it is to study rare diseases. So just like that of the first one, that is cohort, it also relates or studies the rare incidents. So second purpose is to study multiple exposures that may be related to single outcome. Now this is something different from the first one. In first one there was single exposure multiple outcomes, but in case control studies there is multiple exposures but single outcome. Okay. So similar can be said of the cancer. Okay. Cancer is a single outcome, but there are multiple things that can lead to cancer. Okay. So lung cancer, it not it is not only because of the smoking of the tobacco, but it can also be related to the environmental pollutants which we have in our air. Okay. There, if a person is working at some factory, so the chemicals in the factory, they can also lead to the cancer. Okay. So multiple exposures, we have to try to find out which are the different exposures that may lead to the single outcome. So in the example, the single outcome is the cancer. So the study subjects, the participants selected based on the outcome status. So case subjects have outcome of interest. Okay. So case subjects will be deceased one. Okay. In case of this example, case subjects will have a certain type of cancer, and the control subjects do not have outcome of interest. That means control subjects will be the healthy subjects. Okay. Who do not have the outcome. Okay. So the study design is this, that we have, as the name suggests only, case control. So case means the person who has the disease, and the control who don't have the target disease. Okay, so here you can see we have a source population, in that we have selected the population who have the disease, and we given the name as the cases to it. And we have another group of people who don't have the disease, which we consider as the controls. Okay, so again we compare these cases with the controls in the view of the exposure, whether they are exposed or unexposed. Please understand this one thing very clearly. In cohort study, it was exactly opposite. We were categorizing, or we were separating the population depending on exposure. But in case of case control study, we are distinguishing, or we are separating the population depending on presence or absence of outcome. Here the parameter of selection of the population is different. It is the outcome on which we are separating or distinguishing the population. And in earlier case, in case of cohort study, we are dividing or separating or distinguishing the population depending on the exposure. Okay, so in both these, that is in cases and controls, we are finding out who is exposed to the that etiological factor or not, and what is the relationship between the exposure and the disease. Okay, so next is when to conduct a case control study, when the outcome of interest is rare. Okay, this is important. In case control study, we are talking about outcome of interest which is rare in nature, and in cohort it is exposure which is rare. Okay, so multiple exposures may be associated with single outcome, and the funding or the time is limited. Okay, so in such cases we have to go for the case control studies. So advantages of case control studies is that first is it is relatively easy to carry out, it is rapid and inexpensive, then it requires comparatively few subjects, then it can assist one in studying different etiological factors, then it does not need an ethical clearance, and there is no risk to the subjects. But disadvantages of it is that it introduces bias. Okay, to select an appropriate control, it could be very difficult. It may be difficult to distinguish between cause of disease and the associated factor. Okay, so the applications of the pharmacoepidemiology, the first application is in the prescription and drug consumption study. Second is study of drug effectiveness, and third in the risk associated to the drugs. So in these three areas of interest, the applications of pharmacoepidemiology lies. So let's see one by one, that is prescription and drug consumption studies. So these studies, they define the conditions of real use of drugs after their marketing. Okay, this is important, that is real use of drugs. So they investigate quantitative and qualitative characteristic of treated patients, prescribers or prescribed quantities. Okay, they also consider national or regional differences in drug use, determinants of prescription, and differences from validated indication. Okay, so validated indications differences means what? Sometimes certain drugs can also be used off label, so such off label usage of the drugs can also be documented with the help of these studies. So these studies underline several inconsistencies between basic pharmacological data and conclusions of the clinical trials, and the prescription and use in the real life of drugs. Okay, so it basically is useful in order to point out the inconsistencies that we get from the data which we obtain in the control conditions and the data in the real life condition. In control condition data which we obtain, it is a very regulated type of data, as we regulate each and every characteristic or each and every parameter in the clinical trials. But that is not true in case of the real life situation, because in a real life situation the conditions may vary from place to place or person to the person. So the conclusions, the prescription and use of drugs in the real life, it differs from that of the clinical trials. So second area in which pharmacoepidemiology finds its use is study of drug effectiveness. So in pharmacoepidemiology, efficacy of drug is studied by focusing on two essential aspects. First, its long-term action over several months, or better several years, in order to bring closer to the daily clinical practice and the prescriber's goal. Okay, so then the drug effects are investigated on so-called hard criteria. So this first one is the soft criteria and this second one is the hard criteria. So what is hard criteria over here? It is clinical criteria translating a quantitative improvement of the patient health. Quantitative means what? We actually able to quantify how much improvement have happened in the patient's health. Okay, and in first we are only concerned with long term action or effect of the drug, that is seen over the period of several months or several years. And why we try to find out its long term effects? In order to bring closer daily clinical practice and the prescriber's goal. Okay, so these are only three clinical criteria for such an evaluation. Okay, so the first criteria is the decrease in morbidity, that is decrease in sickness. Then second is decrease in mortality, that is total mortality and not specific mortality like cardiovascular one. And the third one is the improvement in quality of life, that is analyzed using appropriate and valid scales. So these three clinical criteria are very important. That is, a decrease in morbidity, that is decrease in sickness is important. But if there is no decrease in the mortality, then it is of no use. We cannot call such drug as effective drug, because it is decreasing the prevalence or decreasing the effect of the disease for a certain period of time. But after that, if the disease is relapsing or it is coming back, then it can cause the mortality. So long term protection against the disease should be provided by the drug. Okay, also when it is providing long term effect against the disease, then at the same time it should also improve the quality of life. Okay, that means if a person because of the disease is not able to conduct its proper or is not able to perform his normal duties, then that drug is not of much. We cannot call such a drug as the effective, because the quality of life is being affected with the disease. What it is, what the drug is just doing, it is just suppressing the disease. It is not letting disease to affect more. But whether it is improving the quality of life, the answer to this question is no. That with the disease, the patient was not able to perform his normal duties, but with the help of the drug, Again, if the patient is not able to perform his normal duties, or there are some restrictions to perform the normal duties, then we cannot call that drug as it is improving the quality of life. Okay. So the third area in which pharmacoepidemiology finds its use is the risk associated to the drugs. So in this, the studies complement the role of alert and identification of adverse drug reaction profile played by spontaneous reporting and pharmacovigilance stricto sensu. Stricto sensu means in strict sense. Okay. So pharmacoepidemiology quantifies the risk at the population level. So what it does, it quantifies the risk. That means how much risk is associated with the drugs if they are given to the population. That is defined by the this pharmacoepidemiology study designs. So more recently, the importance of coupling signal detection methods in large databases such as pharmacovigilance ones with some pharmacological, which includes pharmacodynamic or pharmacokinetic characteristic of drug, that is receptor affinity for example, allowed to investigate in humans the mechanism of adverse drug reaction. So in short, or summary of this entire thing is that these pharmacoepidemiological studies, they don't only quantify the risk which is associated with the drug, but they also help to find out the mechanism by which the drug is producing the adverse effect. Okay. So that is all for the applications of the pharmacoepidemiology. Thus herewith we have finished the second point of the pharmacoepidemiology, that is analytical study approach and the applications of the pharmacoepidemiology. The factors affecting drug utilization studies, we are going to study in next lecture. Till that time, we'll stop here over here only, and thank you.